guys can address that, but also this. How the refs called one thing on the Shazier Bernard play, the opposite on the Burfict Brown play, and flagged Jones for unsportsmanlike conduct, but not Coach Joey Porter for being on the field. The difference between 35-yard field goal and 50-yard field goals with the game on the line is huge, as you guys just addressed. Woody, we'll start with you again. Who is most to blame for this loss?
The referee, John Perry, and also Burflick. I'm going to put the blame on both of them. The referee can't allow an assistant coach to be on the field in the middle of the Bengals. And I don't care whether Porter said he was out there to help Antonio Brown. He's a linebacker coach. We know from his history in Pittsburgh that he's had situations with the Bengals before, but Pac-Man Jones wouldn't have gotten the penalty if Porter hadn't been in the middle of that scrum with the Bengals. And Burfict went from being the GOAT, greatest of all time, with 2 great plays, to being the GOAT of making a play on the wide receiver that he shouldn't have made. So I'm going to put it all on them. I don't think Marvin Lewis accepts the blame. What could he do in the middle of all that? He brought Burfict over and said, you can't do that. I think it's all on those 2 guys. You look in the scrum and you see the referee right there. He's looking at Porter and doesn't do anything. It's in the roll book. He doesn't blog out there.
Israel, where does the blame fall for you?
Well, if you want to point to one guy to say almost definitively the game would have turned out in the Bengals' favor, if this doesn't happen, it's got to be Jeremy Hill's fumble. But this is a Jeremy Hill, a young player who's had fumble problems, who probably wouldn't have been in the game if Giovanni Bernard was there. And this goes back to all the issues. I think Pittsburgh got away with too much. That hit by Shazier, I thought should have been flagged, absolutely. Munchak pulling players' hair on the sideline. Joey Porter going onto the field. I mean, you want to talk about Marvin Lewis not having control of his players. The Tomlin doesn't even have control of his coaches in this situation. And so, Porter went out there with a purpose, and that was trying to incite something, and he got away with that. They also got away with having Ben Roethlisberger throw the ball on average 1 yard in that final possession because he couldn't really throw the ball and somehow got away with all that. I do think...
Is that then on Marvin Lewis? Not having the right game plan late, as well as the players losing their cool? Does the coach have to do something there?
Look, I don't have a problem with Marvin Lewis being on the team. I think he's a good coach. I think, you go through all these issues. I mean, they were one non-penalty away from potentially having the greatest story of the weekend with a backup quarterback going through and winning the first playoff game in 25 years in their franchise. So I don't think it's on Marvin Lewis.
Blackstone.
Marvin Lewis had his team prepared on a final drive with A.J. McCarron, a player who people didn't think was going to get it done, looked like he had the game-winning touchdown. That was a heck of a thing. I'm not going to blame him for what the players did in a very emotional game. I'm going to blame it on the officials who never, ever really had a good handle on this game for all the reasons that Izzy just pointed out, for the reasons that Woody just pointed out. This was really a poorly officiated game in terms of handling all the antics that were going on.
Specifically for you, then, there should have been 2 penalty flags on the field.
With the Pac-Man Jones situation, that should have been a situation where you had offsetting penalties because clearly you had a violation, a sideline violation by the coaches on the other side, and so that those would have washed themselves out. But I thought it was really a poor decision by the official at that point just to single out Pac-Man Jones. That was a bad deal, and it hurt the team.
Solo, where's blame for you?
Yeah, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but Pac-Man Jones absolutely is innocent here. And what is the protocol in the NFL? Why is a defensive coach allowed to walk out on the field? A guy that we know is a hothead that runs his mouth. That is totally out of line. He should have gotten the penalty there, not Pac-Man Jones. But you know what, you guys, you're talking about Marvin Lewis. This is a results-oriented business. This is a guy that's never won a playoff game, number 1. He should be held accountable for the fact that his team is not focused, they're not concentrating late in the game. If we're going to blame Tom Coughlin for the way that Odell Beckham acted, how about Marvin Lewis for the way that Vontaze Burfict acted?
What do you want him to do there, Frank? Specifically, what do you want? What can a coach do in a situation like that? I mean, the Burfict play is in actual field of play while the game is happening in milliseconds. Pac-Man Jones, as you just explained, had, an instigator in Porter on the field.
But he has a history of this. Why isn't this? Listen, the guy's a terrific player. Woody mentioned he made 2 huge plays in the game, but he also lost the game by taking a cheap shot at somebody. And Pac-Man Jones to sit there and tell me that he's flopping.
I don't know how that's Marvin Lewis's deal when, he's not the one who
he doesn't have control of the players, and they've never won a playoff.
Gutierrez, last word.
If you think about this, after that Pac-Man Jones penalty, if the referees just huddle up and ask themselves, hey, why is Joey Porter out here? They can throw that flag a minute later, 2 minutes later. They don't have to, just as long as it's before the next play. That was a bad officiating job by those people.
We've been warned. We have to move on here because there's a football game tonight.